Hi, friends. Jennifer here with Jen Open Hearts. And I just wanted to pop on for this really special winter experience, this conversation around self love, honoring your inner winter, and what are some different practices that we can connect with to assist us on this voyage. So, for myself, I am in a northern climate in Michigan, and we have the season of winter, which is all about kind of like this expression of going inward, of kind of tending to our internal roots, our inner selves, and really connecting with this aspect of ourself of like watering the roots, nurturing the roots, and really taking care of our inner selves, honoring our inner winter, right? If the summer is like the out breath, the inner is like the winter is the in breath. So there's kind of this conversation that we can have with nature that's sort of teaching us how we can maneuver through our lives in a way that is in alignment with the natural world. And so the inner winter, like I mentioned, is this time where we can really settle into ourselves, settle into our bodies, maybe do some assessments, some understanding of what we've been up to, what's working and what's not. What are some areas of our life that are no longer feeling fruitful? Where do we need to add fertilizer to our soils? Where do we need to prune? What do we need to build from the ground up, the foundation? So we can look at this in many different ways from a health conscious perspective. And I'm titling this series Holistically You because I do believe that health is a full spectrum experience. It's not just the body, but it's the body plus the mind, plus how you feel, plus how you talk, plus just your overall relationship, not just with yourself, but with the entirety of the human experience. So it's not just a one size fits all, but it's more or less about how do we view the full spectrum of our well being? What is our well being? Is it just working out? I don't think so. Is it just eating well? That's one part of it, right? It's all like having a conversation with one another, which is a really beautiful thing to remember and to connect with, and to just ask yourself, like, where am I struggling? Where am I not feeling good? Where am I not feeling happy with myself and my life? Where are my actions from yesteryear not serving me? What did I do yesterday that built me today, that made me feel really good? So it's up to us to really do this inner understanding of our world, our inner assessment. Again, just coming back to who am I today, and what actions can I take to get me closer to who I want to be tomorrow. So the winter is like this season of it's cold. Like there's a lot of things happening underneath the surface. Um, there's growth. Like even if we plant garlic, they say in the winter, like the garlic is doing its thing under the ground, and then it's not until the spring that the sprouts come out. And this is true in much of nature. So it's just really good for us to, again, come back to that sacred mirroring of like, what am I doing that's working? What am I doing that's not working? And how can I really bring more medicine into my life, more medicine to my spirit, more medicine to my heart? And medicine, not in terms of, pills and things like that, but what are the actions, the thoughts, the words that I can use that can help me build this personalized medicine cabinet for myself to feel good, to feel well, and to feel content with life, in like a holistic view. So, what are my pillars? What are the pillars of my life? What are the pillars of the things that make me feel joyful? There are some true foundational aspects, right? We talked about the holistic lens. So, thinking about health from a well rounded perspective. So, stepping into that space of how is my physical body? Am I moving every day? Am I listening to my body? If I'm sick, am I still forcing myself to work out really hard? Am I at least walking 30 minutes a day, or 10 minutes, break it up like after I eat to help stabilize my blood sugar? Like there's so many little things and little actions that we can do in our lives that can really be an act of self-care and be an act of self-love, and really be a testament to our marriage to ourself, our relationship to ourself. And so just thinking a little bit, I have some notes off to the side, really nourishing the inner landscape, these interior parts of ourselves, taking very conscious moments to really tune in with yourself. Like, what is the best way for me to start my day? How am I feeling right now? Can I slow down? Can I take a breath? Can I maybe take away some of the outside noise and allow myself to listen to myself and to my inner landscape, to really listen deeply, right? A winterscape is often very quiet, right? We can go out into the snow, the ground is frozen, all this stuff. So it's like we really have to give ourselves permission to listen deeply and listen deeply to ourself, to our spirit, to our soul. So I think it's just a really beautiful thing for us to remember that our bodies are always talking to us, and that it's an indication of where can I pivot and what can I change, what can I adjust in my life to really connect to something that's more true and more alive for myself. So just some things for contemplation. I'm not an expert. I'm merely someone on the path who is figuring it out as well. But I'm finding that when I listen a little bit deeper to myself, to my spirit, to my soul, to my heart, to my body, that more information comes in, more trust comes in, more connection to who I am, more like confidence, even, right? It's like all kind of like a self-feeding system. So, again, if we think about the day, we have 24 hours in a day. So, like, how are we starting the day and how are we ending the day? And what's all the action that's happening in the middle of that day? And it's really important for us to make time for conscious involvement in our inner selves and our inner psyches to say, wow, like, actually, I'm doing good in part A, B, and C, but there's like two areas of my life that I'm really struggling. And maybe that's relationship and intimacy, or maybe it's connecting to people you love and care about. Maybe you're doing really good in food and feeling nurtured, and maybe you're like walking and moving and doing all the things. So it's like really getting honest with yourself. And I think that's where like our friends and our lovers and our family can be really great mirrors to us, where we can say, "Oh, yeah, that's actually, they said that to me, and it hurt to hear that, but actually it's the truth." So it's like, how can we use our world around us as kind of a sacred mirror of saying, like, yeah, I want to be this way, but actually I'm this way. So in order for me to go from here to there, I need to do some action in the middle, in the arc line. Like, what are the things that are going to help me feel more grounded? And so that's something I think a lot about in the winter, especially, is this concept of, we're really going inward, right? If we're on this path, if we're considering the world, if we're trying to learn from ourselves and from our experience, we're kind of listening, we're doing the deep listening. And so sometimes that can kind of take us mentally off into the ethers, right? Oh, wow, like, what's next? I'm excited. I'm imagining, I'm being inspired. I want to do all the things. But what's also really important is that groundedness. So that's something I think about a lot for myself in this season of winter, is like, okay, I'm off in the ethers, but how can I be grounded, grounded into this experience? And so some of the ways for myself are like, walking or being in nature, or even when it's cold, sitting on the earth, or lighting some herbs, right? Like, not any old herb, but like sage and whatever I have at my disposal. How can I tune back into the body and be in the body and be in a space where I'm feeling grounded, I'm feeling rooted, I am nurturing the roots, I am allowing myself to go off into the ethers and think and consider and be inspired, but I'm also coming back into the body. So those are some things that I'm really thinking about in this season of winter, is like this exchange of like who we are, where we're going, and how can we really do the acts that are deeply nourishing. So what's deeply nourishing for me, again, might be different for you, but there are some universal truths. And so the deeply nourishing aspects can be, like I mentioned, walking or feeling grounded, breathing, being in the body. It's kind of interesting because people talk a lot about grounding, and I didn't understand it at first, but now I do. And it's like this concept of like, if you're in your head so much, it's almost like you can imagine your head is your crown and you're just like going off into all your different thoughts. But like, to be grounded is to be really in your body and your physical form, and to feel really nourished from that space. So it's like, it's again looking at health in a holistic manner, what is my inner landscape looking like? What is it feeling like? Am I ungrounded? And how do you know if you're ungrounded? You're feeling flighty. You're not really connecting to yourself or to your world or to your environment. You can feel out of your body. You're not really appreciating your body. Like, it can be so many different things. And I think it's just important for us to really approach life with a really mindful lens. And I think to be mindful, we really have to slow down just a bit. And that can be counterintuitive because we live in a very fast-paced world where, there's a lot of like congratulating of success and like achieving and all the things, which is great, but it's also okay to take it easy, take it slow, take it intentional, to mess up, to make mistakes, to move forward, um, and to really be nourished by that process, and to not see yourself as like a failure or failing if you're not achieving. It's like remembering, my husband and I had a conversation around this as well, where it's like remembering that if you're planting, if you're here and you want to be there, what seeds are you going to plant in the middle, right? If I want to be an oak tree, I should probably plant an acorn, right? So it's like, what is going to happen is the seeds that you're planting, the seeds that you're watering. Um, and again, it comes back to your inner landscape. If I want to be Jennifer, the grounded person, or the athletic person, or the yogi, or whatever it is, like, I can't just like open my eyes and, oh, I'm there, I did it. I mean, maybe you can, but I don't believe that. I think you have to make aligned action to get you to that state. So if I want to feel, um, you know, if I'm noticing there's something missing in my life, I have to make aligned action to get me to that space. And so the winter, with its natural slowness, is a space where we can really pop into aligned action. So something I've been doing that I feel really good and proud about is, like, I noticed I wasn't having a yoga practice, and that made me sad because I saw myself, at least the future version of me, as like someone who's really flexible in the body and also the mind, because I can be a gripper, I can get reactive and all the things. So like, if I want to be this flexible in body and mind, I can't just be there. I mean, again, technically maybe you can, but you need to do aligned action to get there. And so I've been making a consistent practice of showing up on the mat, even in small doses, right? Like the first 3 days, it was like a 20-minute practice, which feels kind of small for some people. That might be like, wow, that's a lot. But it's good to remember, like, to be patient with your growth and to be patient with your process, and to really let yourself, express yourself in the way that you want to go and the direction that you want to be going. And I think that consistency is the best medicine. So it's interesting because it's like when we want to do something, we might have to let go of something else, right? So if I'm going to make room and time and space in my life, in my 24 hours of my day, I need to set aside time, intentional time, with the sweet little seed of like, yeah, I'm going to show up and I'm going to remove distractions. So it's like, if this is going to exist, then something else might have to get taken away. And for myself, that was social media. So I was like really getting caught in the grip of like, oh, what's going on Instagram? I need to know. And then feeling like almost like this downward spiral, just not having that like self resiliency or like inner life force energy that was feeling strong enough to really be a witness to the greatness of other people's, highlight reel of their life, which is beautiful and it's wonderful. But if you're witnessing it and you're not feeling good, then it might be okay to distance yourself. So I was like living vicariously through my brain, looking at my phone, oh, yoga, 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 but I wasn't doing it. So there was like that dissonance that was happening in my heart and in my mind and my spirit that was like incongruent. It's like there's a disharmony. There's like two different frequencies that are beating and vibing and all the things. So it's like, okay, I'm seeing a problem. I have to limit time on this device. I use it for work. So there's that, that can exist, but to be really conscious and to be very intentional with my time and to allow myself to say no to one thing and to open a portal to another thing. And for me, that was closing or limiting intentionally Instagram and opening the portal to a morning practice with yoga, which feels really good and really exciting, and it feels nourishing. And I know in my heart and in my body that it feels good because that consistency of showing up is allowing me to see where my body was yesterday, the day before, and where is it going. So it's possible for all of us. It's possible for each of us to really step into who that awareness of who we are and where we're going. And there's small things that we can do in our lives that can really help us awaken to the next version of ourselves. Not that this version is bad, but that if you want to go somewhere, you got to go somewhere, right? If you have a vision or an aspiration, you really have to be tuned in enough to really, oh, I can do it. I got this. And again, like I said, it's that mindfulness, I think, that really gets us um, closer to that state of fostering more love, right? More love for ourselves, this like lifelong relationship with ourselves. And we do it in every single thing that we do. It's like you are what you do in a day. So, one small action is not a failure, it's a mistake. So it's like, in the movies where they're like, take one, it's like the same thing. It's like allowing ourselves to be like, oh, I made a mistake. Okay. I shouldn't have had coffee when I was super anxious. I should have maybe had an herbal tea, and that's okay. That's like one step in the direction of awareness. So it's like every moment is almost like data collect, bring it back to yourself. Oh, was that a good choice? And then you move on into the next direction. So um, I think that's kind of the main crux of this conversation, was just like thinking mindfully about where do we want to go? Who are you? Where do you want to go? What are you doing now that's not in alignment with who you want to be? And really being aware of that, being hyper aware. So you might allow yourself to look at your routines and rituals. What are the things that you're doing daily? Are they truly, truly nourishing you? Are you feeling stagnant? Are you doing the same thing over and over and not seeing results, right? It's like I'm going through it. Everyone I know is going through it, and it's a very human thing. But I think it's up to us to really almost be like the bird in the tree looking down at ourselves and thinking like, oh, what do I got to do different? Like, what's not working? Okay, that's not working anymore. Or where do I need to habit stack? Or, my husband's been a really great testament of this like consistency. He's like Capricorn king and really able to connect with consistency and the builder mentality. And I know that we all have this inside of us, regardless of astrology. So it's like, where do I need to be the bird in the branch looking down on my life and connecting to what's alive and what's true and what needs to change? And it's up to us to really see that. Um, where is the stagnancy in our routines and rituals when it comes to nourishing ourselves? So even in food, right? We could talk about that in its whole separate space. Just thinking like, what food is making me feel good and more alive? What food is making me feel grounded in this time of winter? And I think some really grounding foods are like root veggies, right? Those are like of the ground. Different kinds of meats can be really grounding too. And by grounding, I mean, it's like, not that it makes you feel heavy, it just makes you feel like you're really in a body, because sometimes we eat light on a purpose. We eat super duper clean foods because we want to feel that lighter energetics, but we don't always need that. We don't always want that because it might make us like too off in the ethers, which is okay too. But if you really want to feel grounded, that can be a nice space to connect with, like, what food are you eating? For me, it's cacao. I feel like ceremonial cacao is super nourishing, super grounding, with different kinds of meats, things like grass-fed cow or beef, and all sorts of things. Just really trying to get the best quality. I like to do like shepherd's pie or sweet potatoes, squashes. Like to use a lot of herbs too. So it's like, how can we make ourselves feel very nourished from a cellular level? And I think that's the role and space for food. So, asking yourself, where can I implement some health-centric swaps throughout my day? It can be really hard to just add something into your world and say, oh, yeah, I'm adding this thing. But actually, we need to swap, like I talked about earlier. Where do I need to free up some time aka Instagram, and where do I want to add my time somewhere else. So you can look at your daily diet. What are you consuming? If you're like, wow, I'm drinking like too much wine or something like that, or it's getting overindulgent, you can say like, okay, I'm going to swap out the wine for a herbal mocktail, or something else tasty and interesting that might not be, you know, is like kind of a not a downer, but and I know people enjoy wine for different reasons, but when we're overconsumptive, it can make us feel lethargic or tired or hungover and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know, it's all like our own personal jigsaw puzzle that we have to figure out on the path. Um, and really just make some very conscious swaps. And we have access to the internet. There's infinite knowledge out there, and a lot of it is science based. Some of it's Ayurveda, some of it's this, that, and the other thing. So there's a lot of information at our disposal. If there's something in your life that makes you feel small, that makes you feel heavy in not a good way, sad, whatever it is, like these kind of lower base feelings, like how can we really tune into that and elevate it in some way, make it exciting, make it fun. Like even for me, I'll just give one more example. It's like things like I love coffee. I think it's great. It tastes really good. But then I was like almost treating myself too much to it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm here. I'm on vacation, coffee, coffee, coffee. And it was great. But then I was noticing it didn't feel quite as special. So it's like, where can I make things feel more special and more nourishing in different ways? And we all have our own, again, like our own personal puzzle that we have to fit together the pieces of what contributes holistically to the most joyful life. And how can I apply these principles of nourishing my inner winter? And I think I'll just leave with a couple little tidbits of like, again, going inward, being mindful, thinking about how are you starting your day, how are you ending your day, and what are the steps that you're doing in between. Being really conscious and just asking, like, is this serving me? Is this making me feel good about myself and my life? And really just having a discerning eye, but also a loving eye towards yourself and where you're heading. And I'm learning as I'm speaking, so I'm really grateful to have this space just to practice and to share and to tune into what's alive in me. So thank you for watching. I never did this before, but I thought it would be fun. And the internet is a powerful place to grow ourselves and to be like a digital avatar of where we're going and to express ourselves in new ways. So I hope you find time in your life, in your schedule, in your space, to really tune into what does your inner landscape need, what do you need, and what healthy, happy, joyful swaps can you make to feel a little bit better. So thank you so much, and wishing you a beautiful day. Bye.